Hello and welcome to the full moon walkthrough for the Capricorn full moon at 29 degrees of Capricorn on July 21st, 2024. I am your astrologer, Cawnawyn, and today we're going to take a look at this chart, hopefully show you a few things, give you some instruction if you're new to reading charts, and give you some guidance and tips for how to navigate this transit with a lot of intense energy going on, which I think a lot of us are feeling. So I wanted to make sure I got this out for you as soon as possible. So thank you so much for all of my Blue Hour subscribers who get this automatically. If you want to get this in your inbox every month when we have a full moon, please consider signing up for my free newsletter, Blue Hour, on cawnawynmore.com/Blue Hour. Every month we sit down and take a look at the chart for the full moon. I give some introductory lesson astrology, so that way if you're new to it, you get some ideas of how to read the chart. And we just talk about the different energies and how to work with them every full moon. So let's jump right in. Here is the chart we're looking at now, and I always set my charts to 0 degrees Aries rising, which means that the rising sign is not going to matter in this forecast. So wherever you are located in the world, look for 3:17 Pacific time is when this full moon is exact. If you convert that to wherever your time zone is and take a look at your chart will look different because the planets will be in different positions, but they will be at the right degrees. All of these degrees should remain the same. And then you can actually see what rising sign is happening for you during this full moon. That will affect how the full moon plays out in your community, in your area. And then you can also look to see, okay, where is 29 degrees of Capricorn, where the moon is located, and where is 29 degrees of Cancer, where the sun is located at this time in your own chart. And then you can see the different houses that these planets are making their presence known and showing us the energy and how it might be affecting you personally. Great way to also figure out if you want to do some full moon magic, making it a little bit more applicable to your unique scenario. But for this chart reading, we're not going to talk about any of the houses or the rising sign. It's just at 0 degrees Aries to keep it simple. We're going to be focusing mostly on aspects. So let's talk about full moon energy. Full moon is a time of illumination. This is the climax of the moon cycle when the moon is illuminated fully by the sun's light. The sun, remembering in astrology, is representative of our soul's divine journey and path. And the moon, of course, is that most intimate place, our heart. It's how we operate, in private, and it's how we tend to react to things, whether that be reaction emotionally or reaction because we feel threatened. It's that place inside of us that at its core is its most vulnerable and fragile. It being our heart, it is not exactly something that is going to make itself public and right out in the open unless that's just how you operate, in which case your moon sign might have something to do with that. But for many of us, our moon sign is kind of the last layer that people get to know as they get to know us deeply. So the moon and the sun are acting in an opposition during a full moon. So here is the opposition sign right here. And of course, our place on Earth right now is standing right between this. So this is why we see the moon on one side of the chart, the sun on the other side. And I'll put up a graphic to sort of show what I mean by that and why it looks this way in the chart. So when we think about opposition energy, this typically shows up in relationship because it's how one planet is operating and looking across the chart at another planet and how it's operating. So this means that these planets can show up within our relationships and also can kind of show up within us as like a little bit of a tug and war. So oftentimes we may feel very separate from what's going on. This energy might be playing out in a relationship in your life and you're standing on the opposite side going, whoa, I'm reacting in this way and I feel very different from that, or I'm seeing the differences like illuminated very brightly. For this full moon, right, you might be standing in the moon in Capricorn's energy, which is like wanting a security, wanting to provide and wanting to create legacy, wanting to create a foundation, a structure. We think about like Saturn. I talked a lot about this in the previous full moon episode that we did for the first Capricorn full moon. So if you're interested in more of the Saturnian influence on a Capricorn moon, definitely go watch that one because it'll apply to the same thing. I'm going to focus on some different elements for this one. So if you're standing in the moon's energy and you might be looking at someone in your life that is exhibiting the sun's energy in Cancer and wants to provide more of the nurturing, or perhaps is coming from the shadow side of Cancer, which is trying to create a dependence on themselves. So that way you have to, look to them for nurturing. You have to look to them for care. Or perhaps that emotional side that is completely closed off and you're wondering, how do I access this person? How do I get past that crab shell? We could be standing in either one of these. You could be standing in the sun's light as well and seeing somebody who perhaps, in their moon's light is acting very, very like cold and calculated and separate from their emotions and is not able to access the like depth and the flow of the moon's energy because that Capricorn, that Saturnian influence is blocking it a bit. Oftentimes Saturn will oppress or depress emotions and it kind of blocks out. It puts up the boundary and starts with a no. So it might be hard to access that when you're standing in the sun's light, wanting to nurture, wanting to give more. So anyway, just be keeping in mind that these might be ways that this particular full moon is playing out. But something that's really critical to this full moon is this conjunction with Pluto, which I'm sure you've heard. If you've been listening to other astrologers, everyone's going to be talking about this. This is an incredibly deep, profound influence on this full moon. First of all, we're looking at a 29-degree Capricorn moon, right? That's at the very, very, very last light of Capricorn. So as it's exhibiting its Capricorn qualities, it is also at the very end of those. So there's, again, this element of loss, which can often come up in a full moon's energy anyway, where we're illuminated to what needs to be shed to let go. And that's what initiates that waning moon cycle versus what needs to be gained and manifested. Now it becomes a releasing energy. So at the very end of Capricorn, now the moon is really in a position where it has to say goodbye to the Capricorn story and embrace the next story, which is Aquarius. And here we have Pluto inviting us to transform ourselves with the energy of Aquarius. So what is Aquarius, right? Aquarius is that rebellious spirit we often talk about. It's associated with revolution, acting on behalf of humankind, seeing the greater collective as the real aim to like bring everybody up equally. So it views individuals as unique, wonderful, fabulous components of a much larger picture. And it sees itself as a core team player specifically. It's trying to lift everybody up, be friendly with everybody. Everybody can win together equally. Now, what can happen sometimes with Aquarius is if everyone's treated the same, then nobody is special, right? So Pluto in Aquarius is inviting us to examine ourselves and maybe where we're trying to stand out as individuals, but where in fact we might be wanting to actually act on behalf of a community. What communities are we acting within, and how is community showing up in our lives? How is the greater collective, the striving toward the future? This is another interesting element. We have Aquarius, this transformative energy of Pluto and Aquarius, inviting us to transform, to move forward, because Aquarius is always concerned with time, Saturn's influence, looking forward, where Capricorn is always looking backward. It's Saturn's influence looking behind in the past, establishing tradition and saying what is good, what is to be gained from knowledge and wisdom, looking backwards in time at figures of history, at icons, right? How can we learn from the past? So this is truly a stepping into what is this next chapter going to be, and recognizing that there are things we must let go and transform in order to progress forward. So this is huge right here. Wherever this is showing up for you, whether it be in one of the more intimate houses, this might be showing up in a very private relationship. It might be showing within your soul and something that you're trying to grapple with inside. Again, thinking of this tug of war energy inside of you. Maybe you're caught between two different options here, right? And you don't know whether to move forward or backward, and what's sabotaging you. Pluto is always things that are hidden underground. So what is coming out of the woodwork here and being illuminated that you must transform in order to progress into the Aquarian future? Right now that's highlighted even more so because Pluto is in retrograde, going backwards, inviting us to re-examine, re-evaluate, right? And it'll be going retrograde for quite some time, but this full moon is really, really like capitalizing on this energy. Capitalizing being an interesting word choice, of course, because we're dealing with Capricorn, which the two are often associated with each other. Now, one thing I wanted to also mention is we just had Mars move into Gemini down here. So see, it's at 0 degrees at Gemini. It's very beginning of the Gemini story. Now, earlier this week, we had Mars conjunct Uranus. This was on Monday exact, but we felt this leading up into Monday, and then now I feel like we're still kind of feeling the repercussions of this as we're headed into this next energy of the full moon. So when this was conjunct in Taurus, this was really initiating a lot of movement, frankly. Mars is always movement, and then with Uranus, we're adding in this explosive, sudden, crazy, like these are world events happening that are shocking and sometimes awe-inspiring and sometimes downright terrifying, right? And being in Taurus too, the earth energy, that our foundations are a little bit rattled here. I think you can probably think of some world events that are happening right now that are causing this emotional reaction in everyone, but this may even be happening within your own life. You may be inspired to shake up your reality a little bit in order to progress into a new place, because that Uranus is trying to move forward, revolutionize. It's associated with that Aquarian energy of going into the future, abandoning the past and saying, this is not working, we must re-strategize and start over and let's go forward. And Mars is giving that activation to it. But now Mars has moved forward a little bit, and if you can see, it's making an exact trine. Here's our trine symbol with Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius. So we have 0 degrees Aquarius, 0 degrees Gemini. This is bringing in the air element. This is bringing in breath, right? And these are flowing together. A trine energy is always easily flowing. The wind turbines are rolling, baby. No resistance whatsoever. So what can this look like? This can look like a lot of ideas, a lot of inspiration. Maybe your mind is just flooded, right? This is a very like mind heavy time. We're always calculating, processing, thinking. You might feel very tired from that, right? Oftentimes this can also look, if we think about breath, like our element of breathing and speaking and talking, there might be a lot of chatter, a lot of words being thrown around, a lot of news happening. Even right now, I'm feeling this Gemini energy inside of me, just like talking very, very fast. And sometimes we want to be aware that this flowing of air energy can cause the mind to get kind of manic. So please be aware during this time, like keep a track of yourself and learn when to step back, or try to notice when you need to step back, because you might feel yourself like literally gasping for air because you're trying to bring in the more air, the more inspiration, but it can feel very overwhelming. This is why a lot of air signs have issues with like panic attacks and anxiety. I'm looking at this full moon going, it's already dealing with crisis, right? As in we're exiting the energy of Capricorn. We're experiencing a loss, we're experiencing an ending in order to move into this new beginning, which is very heavily charged by air. We also have Jupiter over here who's giving more of this Gemini energy. This is so much noise. If you've noticed, like the expansion of just the amount of material, the amount of like possible inspirations, like it seems to be boundless right now. And there's just so much talk and chatter. And of course, with world events right now, naturally that would be happening. But this may even be happening just in your day-to-day life or in your mind. Your mind might just be going all the time. And so we're going to have Mars catching up to Jupiter in the next few weeks. This is going to happen in August. And that is really, really going to just propel us into this like noisy Gemini atmosphere, and remembering too some of the qualities of Gemini. So this can look like curious, be open, be childlike, in that you're open and innocent to the world and saying, I need all the information and I'm not coming at it with any preconceived notions or judgment. I just want to know. I just want to understand and to know. And so gathering all of the data is what Gemini is really good at. Taking all those ideas and categorizing them and putting them in your head. Remembering that that's kind of a higher side where we're taking in this information objectively. We're able to have these conversations and treat it without judgment or prejudice. We can come into it and just have an open discussion and get curious about the situation versus getting stuck in our ways or judgmental. But then also remembering the shadow side of Gemini, which can be that sort of two-faced, right? Where you know all the information, you know all the secrets, you might be talking out both sides of your mouth. You might be seeing other people doing that. You might be seeing people act one way and speak another. Pursuing in manipulative tactics, right? Trying to get around the rules instead of following the rules, trying to talk their way out of situations. You might be finding yourself needing to talk out of situations. So just be aware that during this Gemini heavily time, we're going to see both the light and shadow side of this Gemini energy coming out in a very strong way. And if anything, this full moon is really kind of kicking that off because Mars has moved into Gemini and we have it in exact trine with where the moon's going to be. And the moon moves very, very fast. It's going to hit the 0 degrees Aquarius that day. So it will not spend very much time in this energy of Capricorn, but that is when it's making its exact opposition with the sun. So it will carry that through that full moon phase. The very last last little thing I wanted to mention, and I shouldn't say little, it's a big thing and it's wonderful, is we have this gorgeous sextile. Here's Jupiter in Gemini, and at the exact time of the full moon, we have it in sextile with Venus in Leo. So this Leo and Jupiter energy working in sextile, which is this collaborative energy right here. This is the symbol for sextile, right? They've got air and fire elements working together. There's a lot of inspiration, a lot of passion, a lot of drive. Venus is wanting to manifest, right, and create joy and spread pleasure and fun. And then Jupiter in here in Gemini saying yes, 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 and more, and here's some ideas, and here's some creative inspiration, and go, go, go. So I love this. I mean, whenever Jupiter and Venus are talking to each other, these are our great benefics in the sky. So they're happy, they're joyful, they're coming in wanting to create better, right? And wanting to create more of better. So this is a lovely aspect to this full moon, even with all of this like depth and potential, like, you know, opening up to the plutonic, you know, realms of the underworld, of darkness, of, you know, what needs to be shed, what needs to be lost. I think that there's an element here that's like no small thing, because it's Jupiter nonetheless, that's encouraging us to remain open, to remain excited, to remain passionate, and like find the things that are giving us that drive, to be Leo, our authentic selves, right? And to be Gemini, to be curious and open and know more and explore and find out. As much as there is a loss here, I feel like this full moon is such a perfect opportunity to figure out, what is it I need to shed? What is it I need to get rid of, or at least start that process of really letting go of, so that way I can step into my more authentic, beautiful self and feel more fulfilled, feel more pleasure, feel more excitement. So I really think that there's a lot of potential here. It's going to be a deep full moon, certainly. I think everybody's feeling it, but I do think that those foundations are shaking underneath us, and we're saying, okay, it's time for a shift. It's time for a change. It's time for me to say how I feel, do the thing I want to do, pursue the dream, go after it. And if you're sitting there and stuck in a place of, I don't know, you're feeling that tug of war inside of you, remember that there's going to be a release that is necessary. So release some of that fear, release some of those inhibitions, release some of that self-sabotage, and see where that can lead you. Get curious about, well, what if it could work out? What if I pursue this? And what is the worst thing that could really happen? What if I actually get successful? What if I pursue that dream and it manifests for me? Have the courage to live in the what if. So I hope this gives you some ideas, some inspiration for working with this incredibly profound full moon at this time. I know it feels really, really crazy and noisy right now. There's so much happening in this world, but remember that all of this is happening inside of you too, and you have the power to choose where you are headed, to empower yourself with your decisions. You are responsible for your life, which means you are in control. You can choose where you want to go. Very Capricorn feeling right now. Like, you are the authority. You can go after it. Use that high side of Saturn and find your individual path. Find that way forward. If you are interested, you can now purchase a recorded reading from me. I have a short option between 15 and 20 minutes. So if you're interested in how you are going to experience, say, the next season, which is Leo season, the forecast, I can give you a quick rundown of how that season is going to affect you exactly with the transits. And then the extended reading is actually if you want to purchase a recorded reading of, say, your solar return report, or if you would like me to answer multiple questions, if you'd like a walkthrough of your natal chart, you don't know how to read it, but you're just curious and you want my advice or my ideas on how to like go about interpreting your natal chart, I will do a walkthrough just like I'm doing right here. And so you'll be able to see me click around your chart, and I'll be able to navigate it with you, for you. And then of course you have it recorded so you can listen to it anytime, and that's the extended option. Of course, you're always welcome to try and book with me. I do have a pretty full calendar. You can book with me for 60 minutes or 90 minutes via Zoom, and you get a recording as well as all the PDFs of the charts that we look at in the reading together. Of course, you don't want to miss my forecast on Bonfire Babble podcast that I do every zodiacal season. Leo season's coming up in just a few hours, so be sure to check that out and listen if you're interested in the next month of transits. Be on the lookout on this channel for my next astrology message, my as above message for Lunasa, which is on August 1st. I will be delivering a astrology astrological message from the transits in the sky directly to you. And if you are a Blue Hour subscriber, you will get that in your inbox, as well as all the other updates and news that I have. And if you're interested, I did on the Cancer new moon that we had earlier this month, published a blog all about how I designed my playroom and future homeschool room for my kids. And so if you're interested in sort of witchy interior design and my process on that, that is available for you as well. Thank you so much as always for watching, and also thank you to my Blue Hour subscribers for being here, for experiencing astrology with me, for pursuing life with intention. And lastly, I just want to say that I wish you a life of divine purpose and glory, for you are worthy and you are free. Blessed be.